7 million copies sold. Required reading by Jeff Bezos for his top executives. Written in 1984 as a novel about a factory, and it is still outsmarting 90% of the strategy decks being presented in boardrooms right now. Here's the dirty little secret nobody in corporate America wants to admit. The most powerful business framework of the last 40 years wasn't born in a consulting firm. It was born in the mind of an Israeli physicist who looked at your factory floor and saw what your MBAs could not see, that you're optimizing everything and improving nothing. Hello, my name is Todd Hagopian, the original Stagnation Assassin and the author of this book, The Unfair Advantage, Weaponizing the Hypomanic Toolbox. But today, we are doing a Stagnation Assassin book review of The Goal by Eliyahu Goldratt. So get ready for hard-hitting, bold, relentless review of a book that has been quietly assassinating stagnation since Ronald Reagan's first term, and whether or not it still deserves a permanent spot on your bookshelf. Here's the setup. Alex Rogo is a plant manager. His factory is hemorrhaging money. His boss gives him 90 days to turn it around, or they're shutting the whole thing down. Sound familiar? If you've ever walked into a division that's bleeding cash while everyone claims they're working hard, this is your story. Goldratt wrote it as a business novel, a thriller about throughput, bottlenecks, and the terrifying truth that being busy and being productive are two very different things. And if that distinction doesn't keep you up at night, you are probably the bottleneck. Let's talk about the meat of this book. What does this book get right? Let's start with the core thesis because it's a cannon blast of clarity. The goal of any business is to make money, period. Not to win awards, not to win and hit utilization targets, not to make pretty dashboards, to make money by increasing throughput while simultaneously reducing inventory and operating expense. Three metrics, that's it: throughput, inventory, operational expense. If your company is tracking 47 KPIs and can't tell you which ones actually move the needle on profit, Goldratt just called you out from 1984. Now, the theory of constraints. This is where the book transforms from good to generational. Goldratt's 5 focusing steps are precision warfare against stagnation. Identify the constraint, exploit it, subordinate everything else to it, elevate it, and here's the killer. If you've broken it, go back to step 1. Don't let inertia become the new constraint. I watched this exact dynamic at a Fortune 500 where a single production bottleneck was costing us millions of dollars per quarter. Everyone was optimizing their own little kingdom while this constraint sat there laughing at us. Goldratt teaches you to see that. He gives you the lenses. The Boy Scout hike metaphor, where Goldratt illustrates how fluctuations don't average out, they accumulate, is one of the most brilliant teaching moments in business literature, and you often hear people talk about the Herbie. He shows that a chain of dependent events with statistical fluctuations will always fall behind. Always. This isn't a theory. This is physics applied to profit and loss. I've used this principle to restructure operations at multiple companies, and every single time the operators in the room have that moment, that, oh my God, that's why we're always late moment. Goldratt didn't write a business book. He wrote a diagnostic weapon disguised as a novel. And the diagnosis is brutal. Your system is only as strong as its weakest link. And you're probably polishing the strong ones. The Socratic method Goldratt uses throughout the character of Jonah, asking questions instead of giving answers, is masterful. It forces the reader to think, not just consume. The book doesn't hand you a fish, it teaches you to see the river. That's compounding brilliance. Every reread reveals another layer, and I read this every single year. You should too. The murder board. What, if anything, does this book get wrong? Now, The murder board. And yes, even a masterpiece gets one or two things wrong. First, the manufacturing-centric framing. Look, I get it. Goldratt was a physicist who started with factories, but the book's heavy emphasis on physical production lines can make it feel dated or narrow to leaders in services, SaaS, or knowledge work. The principles are universal, absolutely, but Goldratt makes you do the translation work yourself. A leader running a professional services firm has to squint pretty hard to see the bottleneck in their story about machining parts. The theory of constraints is a universal weapon, but Goldratt wrapped it in a factory worker's uniform that's kept it off the radar of leaders who desperately need it. I kind of did the same thing with the unfair advantage, so I totally understand here. Second, the personal subplot. Alex's marriage is falling apart while he's saving the plant. Goldratt uses it to add human drama, but let's be honest, it's the weakest thread in the book. It feels grafted on. Every time I'm deep in a or throughput insight, and I get yanked into a marital therapy session, it's a pacing problem. And in a book about eliminating waste, there's irony in the wasted pages. Third, and this is the operator in me talking, the book is light on the political reality of implementing TOC inside of a large organization. Goldratt shows you what to do, but he glosses over the fact that when you tell a department that their job is to subordinate to the constraint, meaning slow down, stop overproducing, stop looking busy, they will fight you like a cornered animal. I've lived through that resistance at multiple Fortune 500 companies, and we actually talk a lot about that resistance inside of my book. The physics of constraints is elegant. The politics of constraints is a bloodbath, and Goldratt barely mentions it. That's typical of somebody who hasn't actually lived it and worked inside of the factory. The Stagnation Verdict, though, 4 kills out of 5. This book is a serious arsenal edition. The theory of constraints is one of the most powerful operational frameworks ever created. And the fact that Goldratt delivered it as a readable, engaging novel means it actually gets read, which is more than I can say for most business books gathering dust on executive shelves. The 5 focusing steps alone will pay for this book 1,000 times over. The throughput first mindset is a stagnation killing philosophy that every operator needs branded into their brain. It loses the 5th kill because of the manufacturing tunnel vision, the marriage subplot, and the missing chapter on organizational politics. But make no mistake, if you lead a team, a division, or a company, and you have not read the goal, you are fighting stagnation with one hand tied behind your back. So, in closing, that is the Stagnation Assassin verdict of the goal. 4 kills. Buy it, read it, then reread it every time you feel your organization drifting towards the comfortable fiction that being busy means being productive, and reread it every year regardless, because you have to. If you want more stagnation killing frameworks, the kind forged in the fires of actual Fortune 500 turnarounds, not academic theory, then grab a copy of The Unfair Advantage, Weaponizing the Hypomanic Toolbox. Subscribe to the Stagnation Assassin Show wherever you get your podcasts, and visit toddhagopian.com for more stagnation slaying theories, along with stagnationassassins.com, the world's largest stagnation database. Remember, your system doesn't care how hard you're working. It only cares about the constraint. Find it, exploit it, or it will exploit you.